In this interview, Scott Gabaldon takes us on a journey through many of the milestones in his life. From becoming the youngest contractor in the state to taking on the federal government as the chairman of Mishawa Wapo tribe. Through the many peaks and valleys, Scott's story has a common thread woven throughout. By hard work, consistency, and a never-quit mentality, nothing is out of reach. We trust you'll enjoy this interview, and if so, like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future content and interviews. Leave a comment on who you want us to interview next because we all have a story. What's yours?
All right. So we're here at the Boxcar Joe show. And what I was thinking about prior to recording this interview, I think when we get some money, man, I actually want to buy a boxcar and set up a studio in a boxcar. So in the intro, I can say, welcome to the boxcar as opposed to the boxcar show. But anyway, I'm here with a very special guest, and I'm here with Scott Gabaldon. And I asked him to be on the show because we all have a story, and he's going to share his. He has a very interesting one. And I'm going to go ahead and let Scott introduce himself. Go ahead, Scott. The floor is yours.
Thank you for inviting me to your show. I'm Scott Gabaldon. I lived in Windsor all my life, where I'm still live. I just grew up in Windsor. Some say it was the bad part of Windsor. When you come to Windsor now, they said, "Oh, there's no bad parts of Windsor." Well, Windsor used to have bad parts, and I grew up in that area. Had cousins next door that did a lot of partying, and thankfully my mom would keep me away from a lot of it, so I wasn't exposed to too much of it. I mean, I was exposed to it, but I didn't have a desire to do what they did over there. So, but it was a good life growing up in Windsor.
You play sports?
Yeah. Well, matter of fact, my mom was the president of Little League from like 1978 to when I got out of high school, basically 88 or something like that. It's pretty for a long time. And what's funny is they have these like participation awards now, right? When I was growing up, right, my mom was a president of the league, and I sucked at baseball. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like getting hit with the ball. I mean, I could throw it and I can run, but batting, I didn't like getting hit with the ball, so I didn't make the All Stars. And nowadays the president would, hey, you need to put my kid in because that's what you do. But back then, no, if you stunk, you stunk.
Right.
And you didn't get to play these sports. And well, I didn't play them. So, but then I played football, and I ran track and I wrestled. Those are fun sports. I lettered in all three. Um, and so, yeah, I played a lot of sports.
Do you think sports and your mom's involvement in the community kind of kept you out of the riffraff that was going on around you here in Windsor?
No, hands down, absolutely. Because I had somewhere to go every day after school, whether it was during winter playing football, or fall playing football, winter wrestling, or spring track. There was always something to do. And then I got into work at such an early age. When I was a sophomore in high school, my summers were taken up by work. So I didn't have time to do those things. And as a matter of fact, when in high school, when everybody's out partying all day long, I'm getting off work at 7, 8 o'clock, and there was no cell phones back then. So you had to find the parties,
Right.
So, or someone would tell me, or it'd get to me somehow where the parties were, and then you'd go find it. And if it got moved, you have to, okay, where'd it go? But yeah, I was always working. So I missed a lot of the riff raft and that kind of stuff.
Right. So you mentioned you started working your sophomore year. So what kind of work did you get into?
Well, an old family friend, his name was Leonard. He had just got out of prison, and I was riding my bike, on Gemini Street where I grew up. And he goes, "Hey, do you know how to work?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I mow lawns." He goes, "You're going to work with me tomorrow." I'm like, "Sounds good." And he sat me down, and before we started, he goes, "Look, I'm going to tell you in 2 hours if I'm going to keep you or not. I'll just drive you back home." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm working, I'm packing all these 2x4s, and right at 9 o'clock, He goes, come over here. I'm like, what? And he goes, you work pretty hard. I'm going to keep you. I said, you stop me to tell me that? Why don't you just not say anything? He goes, because I told you I'll keep you after 2 hours or not. So I worked with him, and I think I was 15. And matter of fact, I wasn't even old enough to drive because my mom had to drive me back and forth to work. And I became, I started working, and it was only like a month into it, and Leonard got hurt. And the company I worked for, or we worked for, was Palm Homes Construction. And Mark was this redheaded guy, Mark. There was two of them, redheaded Mark and tall Mark. Redheaded Mark was a labor foreman, but he wanted a piecework. So tall Mark said, hey, Scott, you want to be labor foreman? I'm like, what do I got to do? He goes, just make sure all the other laborers do what they're doing. I said, all right. So he gave me the keys of the forklift, and I drove the forklift and deliver all the lumber to the carpenters that were stacking roofs. And little did I know, probably 7 years later, one of the carpenters was my wife's dad. And we started reminiscing, hey, I worked on that job. And it was kind of funny. So I was just a dumb kid then. But anyway, I became a labor foreman for that for the rest of the summer. And then Leonard never came back to work. He had a pretty good sized injury. And then fall came around. I worked again. Did the sports. And then my junior year, Leonard's brother was Chuck. He says, hey, you want to work for me in the summer? I said, sure. So I drove down to San Rafael, Corte Madera, I guess it was, and worked all summer down there building houses and learning more. And then that would have been my junior year. Then my senior year, when I graduated, his nephew Chet goes, hey, you come work for me. And we framed all the roofs at Saddlebrook.
Mm.
And then I worked for that probably till Saddlebrook was done. Then I got a job offer in Tahoe, went there for 9 months. And then after that, I came home. I worked for a bit for ZAM Construction. That was Jerry Matz back then. And then I went to work for a guy named Chris DeLuzak. Built some houses right there in Windsor behind the new fire station for Calprop. And I was about 21. I got married when I was 21, and I took my contractor's test.
So so working throughout high school obviously developed a very powerful work ethic, which is, I see it lacking nowadays in the trades, man. You get these young people out of high school and, it gets a certain temperature and they want to call it a day, and, they get a scratch and they want to go home. And it just seems like this generation, not all, but generally speaking, it seems like that grit, that work ethic that you developed in high school seems to be missing, Scott.
Well, yeah, I was brought up in a different era, and when you work for me, you got to work. And people, oh, you work for Scott, he's kind of hard. Well, not only am I hard, you got to work because I got to work. You're going to work, and then two, you learn a lot, right? And so I don't have time for lollygagging or whatever. You want to work, then work.
Right.
So that's where it was. And working for Leonard, that was I never worked for anybody before, and he worked hard as hell. And when you're looking at, I remember plumbing a wall, and I was looking at it the wrong angle at the level, and he hit me so hard in the ear and slapped my face right in front of the level where I should have been looking. He goes, that's where you look at the level. I'm like, did you have to hit me? But that's how it was.
That's how it was back
man. And there's no hazing anymore.
Right.
Building people's character. I got hung from a stinking garage hanger like Jesus one time, and they left me up there. I'm like, you stinking jerks. But there's no hazing anymore.
No.
Build character.
No, not at all.
No.
So what made you, because you could have went on to, be a project manager or working for someone else for the remainder of your life. You could have probably built a very comfortable little schedule and made decent money. But what made you decide to hey, you know what? I want to be my own boss. I want to go out on my own. I want to elbow my way into the industry. Being young, being ambitious. What kind of, first of all, what kind of obstacles did you have to overcome to get to that point?
Oof. Good question. I don't know what gave me the drive to want to do that. Maybe growing up in the neighborhood I didn't want to grow up poor, I guess. So I worked extra hard to not be that way. And not to say that I'm wealthy now, but I do okay. But I don't really know. It was just something in me. Everyone that I know, that I looked up to, they worked hard. So I just kind of followed their work ethics. And yeah, as far as work for somebody else, it never even crossed my mind after I got to a certain point. Yeah, PG&E job would be nice, like my son Marcus, I guess, for a good retirement. But I never, once I got my license, I never thought about working for someone else again.
So you get your license, and I understand that there was some kind of was there a question in terms of your work experience and your age? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the state law says you have to be at least 18 to get your license. Well, I was 21 years old when I took the test, and it was I prepared for it a long time. Matter of fact, when I was still in high school, I took blueprint reading and construction management at the JC. Um, while I was in high school, so I was preparing for it, I guess, even in high school. And so I got out and I took the test, and I got this flash on the screen: "Don't get a contractor's bond yet." I didn't know what it was. So I go to the contractors board, a little bit later, ask the lady that was doing the, administering the test. She goes, "I'm not sure. You have to wait and they'll send you a letter." So they sent me a letter, and it was disputing my experience because of my age. Now, what you had to do is you had to prove 8,400 hours, right? That's 4 hours of a journeyman. And they thought I lied. And I'm like, "I lied, huh?" So I had to go to all the employers, and saying, "Hey, can you sign this for me?" So I went to all of them. And then a guy's name, I'll never forget his name, Irving Brown, that guy. Anyway, he went to everyone and harassed them. Like, he would take the paper that they would sign, that qualification paper, fold it in half, take it to him, said, "Did you sign this?" And he goes, "I'm not sure if I signed it or not. What's the paper?" And he goes, "It doesn't matter. Is this your signature?" And he goes, "Well, what's the paper?" And he goes, "Well, Kevin King, as a matter of fact, who was doing it to." And he goes, "It's yes or no. Is this your signature?" He goes, "No, it's not my signature." So he calls me in his office and he goes, "Now I'm going to fine you $1,000. And this is in 1991. I'm going to fine you $1,000 for lying on your application." I'm like, "How did I lie?" He goes, "This is Kevin King. Kevin said this isn't a signature." I said, "Well, what's funny is I've got a signed check from him right here. Match up the signatures." And he goes, "Well, that is a signature." I said, "So, I talked to Kevin." He goes, "Well, the guy wasn't telling me what it was." So I told him no. So they were doing stuff like that. And so I ended up proving, it took a while, like a year, in proving 8,400 hours. And then they had no choice to give me my license. And then I, the whole time, now they can't do it for age, right? Because that's age discrimination. And when I called the contractors board and said, "Yeah, I'm finally getting my license," you know what the holdup was anyways? "Well, yeah, it was your age." I'm like, "Wait, what?" She goes, "Well, you'll have to talk to your, I forget what they called him then, your case manager." I'm like, "Well, you said it was age."
Mhm.
"No, I didn't." I'm like, so it was all about my age, right? Because I was the youngest in the state that didn't have like that actually took the test and went through the whole process. And some people will do it with experience, like their dad was in the business forever, and that wasn't the case with me. So I just did it on my own, and that happened.
And then been building ever since.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I built a lot and made a lot and went broke when that market crashed. And
What was that
Hey,
back in '08? Yeah.
yeah, that stung. That stung. Boy, I'll tell you, I had to start all over again. And then in 2012, I did a little subdivision and started building again. And
Did you build a lot during the fires? During the
yeah,
fire rebuild?
yeah, I did. I did 9 homes in there. That's a sensitive subject with me. I had some good clients and I had some bad clients. People want to sue me for no reason, accusing me stealing their money. I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
So But yeah, it was it was good and bad experience in there about that coffee strong stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're a descendant of the Mishawah Wapo people, and you eventually became the tribal chairman. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that and how you became aware of the tribe's struggle, their struggle to be recognized, and I would like, if you could, to expound on how the Wapo tribe was terminated, why it was terminated, and how you got involved and eventually became the chairman.
Well, my mom was on the board since its origination, I think in 1983 or somewhere right at 83, 86 or something. I was still in school and my mom would always tell me about it, and then my Uncle Earl and Aunt Jane. And it was all good when I was a kid asking questions. And then right around 91, I had questions. So I'd question them. They're like, well, you don't even know what you're asking. I said, I know. That's why I'm asking the questions. And they would get really upset when I'd go to the meetings. And then, I remember going to one meeting. It was in 91. I still have the notes I wrote down somewhere in my house. And they wanted a computer. And I said, well, fine, I'll buy the tribe a computer. And then we don't want a computer for me. I'm like, you know what? Then I'm done. I don't want nothing to do with it. My kids, if they want to go to college, they're going to go to college. I don't need anything from the tribe. So why am I trying so hard to get it done? Right. And so I didn't do anything oh no, I'm sorry. That was 96. I didn't do anything for like 11 years, and they're trying to get restored and going back and forth. And I'm watching it. John Triple was the chairman at that time, and then Robert Pena became the chairman. Then nobody was the chairman. And then I think it was October of 2006. A guy named Joseph Kiddo came out from Washington D.C. and met with a few of the past board members, because they all kind of dispersed, and they met at Round Table in Santa Rosa on Stony Point, that little shopping center, and they had a meeting. My mom said, hey, we had a great meeting. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't want nothing to do with it. And then he came back in November and then said, hey, you're going to go to the next meeting? No, I'm not. I told you I'm done. And then they came back he skipped December. That was Christmas. Came back in January, and my mom goes, go to the meeting. We're going to reorganize. I said, I'm not going to the meeting, and stop bugging me about it. And then she kept bugging me. So I finally went to the February meeting, and I'm like, what is he going to tell us? And I didn't know what to expect. I knew that we were a terminated tribe in 1961, and I knew we had to get back to the restoration. So I read up, right? And so I read up on how to get restored, and there's 4, 5 different ways. There's Congress, there's courts, there's administration, and then there's what they call the OFA process, Office of Federal Acknowledgement. And so Joseph Kiddo's there, and at the time there was Yvonne Ned, a guy named Travis Trueblood. And I'm listening, and I finally raised my hand and go, hey, how many tribes have you got restored? And his face dropped, because he didn't get any tribes restored.
And this was Joseph Kiddo, you asked.
Kiddo, yeah. He probably thought I was a total jerk for asking it, but I wanted to know. And then I said, what process are you going to use? And he says, what do you mean? I said, well, there's 4. Which one are you choosing to use? Is it, I laid out the 4, and he goes, how do you know that? Because I'm not an idiot. And the whole reason why I went, I didn't want him to think our people are stupid. You know what I mean? Or we can't think for ourselves, or we're uneducated and we're just going to follow his lead, right? And so a lot of the tribal members got mad at me, like, oh, you're going to scare off this attorney. I'm like, he's going to rip us off. Who cares? So after that, they were going to hold the elections, and my mom goes, you need to run for chairman. I said, Mom, I do not want to be chairman. I have no desire to be chairman. You know this since forever. And then she kept bugging me, and then she got my cousin Vicky. She's like, you're going to run for chairman. No, I'm not. And then finally I broke. I said, fine, nominate me, then I'll run. And I wasn't never, well, I can't say I wasn't never. When I was younger, I was really traditional. I danced, and I got away from it as I got older. And it wasn't the cultural part that was going to get us restored. You can't dance your way into Congress. You can't dance your way into courts, and you can't dance your way through the OFA process. So I figured it was going to have to be done with a smart business sense to do it. So when I proposed to the tribe, I said, look, it's going to be ran just like a business. It's going to be a little different than traditional tribe. It's all business. If someone wants to do the cultural part, be my guest, but it's all business. And so when the votes came back, I think I got like 86% of the tribe's votes. And here I am. And it's been a fight. All the way from me firing Travis Trueblood early on, and then later having Joseph Kittle removed for, well, it was a long story on that. But now the fight is here. I'm in the process of meeting with an attorney in Washington, D.C. to take the case on again. And if we can get to just a settlement with the tribe and not the distributees like we did before, that's the goal.
So before we get into where we are now, in 2012, you testified in front of a House Indian Affairs subcommittee chaired by the late Representative Don Young.
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like, Scott?
Well, I'll tell you, when we got the call for that, a lobbyist called us out of D.C., called Joseph. He knew him from back then and said, hey, don't do it. Mike Thompson is going to set you guys up. I'm like, Mike Thompson's going to set us up? I'm doing it. But then my mom got sick. And about a week before the whole going to D.C., and it was a Saturday, and I was at the hospital visiting her, and she's going to have surgery that Wednesday that I was supposed to be in D.C. talking. I said, I'm not going. I'm going to be here with you. I'm not going to be gone if something happens. She goes, no, you're going to go. I said, Mom, no, I'm not. She goes, yes, you are. You're going to go and finish what you started. I said, I didn't start this. You did. She goes, well, then go finish what I started. So I said, well, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Well, I get all the way home back to Lake County, and my phone rings, and I'm like, who's calling me at 10 o'clock, 9:30 or whatever it was? It's the hospital. They said, your mom fell. I'm like, so what? Pick her up. No, she fell and died. I'm like, wait, what? So I drove all the way back down there, and she had passed and whatnot. So then I'm like, there's nothing stopping me going back to Washington. So that Monday, they started doing ceremony for my mom out of Yakima, and of course I'm leaving. I still didn't really want to go, but I had an obligation. So we went out there, and if you watch that interview, it starts at like 17:45 into it. I am not happy. I don't have a happy look on my face. I'm pissed off that they're dragging me out there and basically just trying to, set us up because they thought it was all about a casino, and, it had nothing to do with the casino. And so the experience was a lot of the Congress people were really cool. They had legitimate questions about, well, why don't you go through the OFER process? Well, at the time, when you look at the OFER process, there's a column that says if you were previously recognized by the federal government and terminated, you can't go through the OFER process. Now it's since changed, so we're also working on that. But so they're asking these questions, and it's a pretty intense 5 minutes I spoke. As a matter of fact, you had mentioned Don Young. Him, Lynn Woolsey, and Mike Thompson wrote a letter to the president saying it would be unwise for us to be restored. I'm like, they're writing this about our little tribe? I mean, what's the point, And so it was jacked up. And so, I mean, we've been fighting with bloody knuckles from day one.
I seen the video, and Supervisor Diane Dillon was there from Napa County. Like,
yeah,
what was her what kind of dog does she have in the fight? Was she concerned about land? I mean, what was
the only dog she had in the fight? She was the dog. She shouldn't have been there. And as a matter of fact, Congress asked her, asked me, says, so you understand Supervisor Dillon's here. I'm like, yeah, and I have no idea why. It's a government-to-government relationship with tribes and the government, not supervisors, not states. The governor of California is not here. So why is a lowly supervisor here? She shouldn't be at this table. And they all went, looked at me kind of funny, but it was true, right? She shouldn't have been there. But they were trying to protect the ag preserve in Napa. And I'm like, we never once threatened them. As a matter of fact, it's still on record in Lake County. We gave once we got the lawsuit going, and they said, "Oh, we only want to get involved for land," So I was against letting them in the lawsuit in the first place, but Joseph Kittle says, "Hey, David Glader says they're going to file a motion to get in anyway, and it's going to slow us down. Just let them in." So we let them in. They had promises about land. What did they do? No, they filed a motion to dismiss the case, which set us way back. I'm like, you suckers. So we had to go to mediation. I went to mediation. I promised Lake County, once we're restored, we will follow all of your laws as far as casinos and regulations and all that stuff. And it was a great little write-up that we did. And we did the same thing with Napa. It was 3 pages, real simple agreement. Napa came back with 8 pages telling us where we can smoke, where we can't smoke. I'm like, I don't really care because I don't smoke, but you're not going to tell us what we're going to do at all. And so I said, you know what? You guys are out of the deal. You don't get that deal no more. So we went to mediation, and it didn't work out. So we went to the lawsuit, and that's how we ended up in the lawsuit. But Diane Dillon was the one that really pushed all this. I remember, and I called her as a supervisor, said, "Hey, I'd like to meet with you. Let me know I'm the chairman." And she acted really nice. And then out came the knife right in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't really trust politicians. Although now I'm considered a politician, I don't trust them because they will change their mind in a heartbeat.
Exactly. Yeah, what's ironic, Scott, is you have these non-natives concerned about us natives infringing on their land and way of life, which I think is, the irony of it just makes me laugh,
Well, I'll tell you a little story. I went to St. Helena to their city council meeting, and I caught wind that Napa County was going to the cities, and it started in Napa, and then it went to Yountville, and then the next city was St. Helena, and they were asking them to sign a petition saying that they don't want the Wapo Indians in the valley. So I go to the St. Helena meeting, and I knew at the time he passed, now great guy, Dale Britton, and talked to him in the past. We had a good relationship. And so I go up there and we start talking and, tell him, look, we got a good relationship, and if we were going to do something, we would want to work with you. We're not just going to cram it down your throat. I mean, and I actually said, we're not savages. And one of the ladies, I can't remember her name on the thing, she goes, "Oh, nobody called you a savage." I said, "Listen, lady, you have been labeling us for 200 years. You called us savages in the 1800s. The 1900s, we were drunks. In the 2000s, you just call us greedy casino owners, and that's all we want. You've been labeling us for 200 years. Don't tell me you're not trying to label us right now." And she didn't say another word the whole time. But like the county they were pushing these cities, right? And I forget his name, Larry. Oof. He works for Burbank Housing now. I can't remember his last name. Starts with an F. But he was telling them how great and precious the land is and how unique it is. And when I got up and spoke afterwards, I said, you know what? Grapes don't make it unique. The elk in the valley floor were unique. The 40,000 trees that were removed before the vineyards were here were unique. The wildlife here was unique. Now you can't even find an insect because you kill them all. They ruined the river, and it was only maybe 7-8 years ago they stopped them from dumping all that the grape waste water into the river because it was killing all the wildlife. I'm like, that's when it was unique. What you're doing is not unique. And, they don't like when I come back and tell them that. And then, they'd say something about these grapes are cherished here. I said, yeah, but they're grown with the bones of my ancestors as fertilized them. And then, they don't like that either.
Let's go, Scott. That deserves a big round of applause there, man. The bones of our ancestors are fertilizing these grapes, man. There's nothing great about that. So you were speaking before about where we are now as a tribe. Go ahead and elaborate on that before.
Well, we kind of got away from doing regular meetings. Me and Patricia, the treasurer, are talking. We're doing a lot of monitoring. We're well known in the community. We're state recognized. But now it's been 5 years ago, I broke my neck and it set me back from doing anything but just trying to survive. And now that I'm feeling better, because I started my gun store, I broke my neck 6 days after opening the gun store. And I know you had a tragedy that same month. I couldn't even go up there to support with you guys and felt bad about that. But now I'm better. I'm fully healed. So now I'm spearheading this thing again. But we're having a gathering the 21st through the 23rd, I think, at Sugarloaf Park. It's going to be one of the first times we got together in about 3-4 years. So that's I'm looking forward to doing that. I'll be there Saturday. I won't be there the whole weekend, but I'll be there Saturday because I'll be in Wyoming the day before. So, but that's where we're at now, and I'm just going to keep pushing along.
Scott, you're a man of many hats. You're a husband. You're a father. You're a contractor, tribal leader. Tell our audience what you're doing now.
Well, I opened a gun store, a G4 Firearms, and it actually wasn't to sell guns, believe it or not. You can buy guns cheaper at Sportsman's, guaranteed. People do it all the time. But it was to train people, educate people about guns. Since 1999 Columbine, there's been a real negative stigma about guns and how guns are evil. Growing up, early 70s, 80s, everybody had a gun. Parents taught their kids how to use guns. Since 99, people kind of put their guns away. It's taboo, they're evil, and they never really taught their kids about guns. Then you see a lot more gun violence because they have no respect for guns or life because they don't know what guns can do, right? So you get a lot of violence with guns. And then you see these school shootings, which are terrible on many levels. And what's crazy about that whole thing is these anti-gun people, they think we support that. I'm like, how in your right mind can you support that? When I talk to these people, I tell them, look, here's the deal. It hurts us more than it hurts you. It's messing with our community, our rights, our Second Amendment. So of course our heart bleeds worse than yours. And then you talk to them a little bit about, try to educate them about guns and some of the statistics that they don't know. Like, for instance, 27,000 rapes are prevented or have been prevented because the woman had a gun that can defend herself, became her first line of defense. Every year, 1.6 to 3 million people have defended themselves against a violent attack or aggravated assault. And some people say, well, why is there such a big difference? Because we know for a fact there is 1.6 million people that have done it because it's been reported. The problem is other people that use a gun in self-defense are afraid to get in trouble, so they don't go to the police and tell them it was reported. So outside reports takes a gathering from phone calls and interviews, and that gets added up, and then it comes to, be almost 3 million. So I opened the store to educate. And from the very beginning, when you bought a gun from my store, you got a free handgun safety lesson. And it was because I didn't want anyone buying a gun from me and not knowing how to use it, so I offered this for free. I still do the classes for the general public. It's $100 to go in there and sit there for 2.5 hours and learn about gun safety, gun mechanics, what a cartridge is, what's the cartridge made up of. Then we get into the shotguns and the AR-15s. So it's a pretty good class. So I teach a lot. I was on 2 private lessons earlier today. Probably do 3 or 4 private lessons a week. I teach the CCW class, which I encourage everyone to get their CCW if they can, just because I don't know where society's going right now. Violence is up through the roof. Aggravated assault is up through the roof. Murders through the roof. And here's the problem. Someone could come up and stab you in the back, literally, boom, take your wallet. It's aggravated assault and not murder. If you live, they get out the next day because there's no bail. It is so crazy how if you live from these things, even though you're stabbed and it's great bodily injury, there's no consequences for thugs. And us in society, we don't get to decide when we're attacked. Only the thug does. So the only thing we get to do is prepare ourselves when this does happen, whether it's with pepper spray, with it's a firearm, or whatever it is. You need to be your first line of defense. And I teach that a lot, and I'm passionate about it because, 10 o'clock at night, you forgot to get gas, you go to an unknown place while you're traveling, and you get attacked. That happens, then what? You're going to wait 7 to 10 minutes on average for a cop to get there, and you're in a rural area, it's 20 to 40 minutes. A lot can happen in that time, so you really want to be your first line of defense.
Totally, Scott. I couldn't agree with you more. I have an 18-year-old daughter, and she, just got her license, and she's enthusiastic about traveling and enjoying her newfound independence. And she's like, Dad, I want to go to San Francisco and just go, go to the Mission or go get some food or go to the pier. And I cringe every time she mentions going because of like you mentioned, the crime rates. Just the lawlessness, the property crimes. I mean, they're not even waiting for you to park your car. You could be at a stoplight in the Bay Area and they will shatter your window and take your property.
I'll tell you what I heard now I'm from a good source. In San Francisco, they have this little program. If your window's broken out, they dedicated like $2 or $3 million. I can't remember how much it was. Might have been $1 million. To people that if your car's broken into and the window's busted, they'll give you $300 to replace the window. The first month that was enacted, it was depleted. That's how many people are getting their windows broken. It is crazy. I don't go to San Francisco, and if I go through it, I go through it fast. I have no desire to go there. I stopped going to Oakland, no desire to go there. And they were great cities. San Francisco used to be the #1 tourist city in the world. And now it is just a heap of nothing. And, our governor now, whatever, political or not, Ray Charles can see he is depleting the state. I think last year, or the year before, was the first time more people left California than came to California. You really can't say you're doing a good job when that's happening. I mean, look at now, I don't buy groceries. I mean, I buy them, but I don't go to the store and actually buy them. My wife does. She goes, man, it is so expensive with groceries. I drive my truck and I'm like, man, gas is expensive. Then they're raising the interest rates. And, for the working man to live, it's terrible. All the extra money, the little bit of money they had a few years ago has been gone because just living is taken. And it's not like people are buying boats and going into this crazy debt. There's no extra money to do anything because the state just taxes us to death.
So what kind of certifications have you went through? Some kind of the trainings you've gone through? And walk me through someone, let's say a woman wants to come, she wants to buy a firearm for, let's say, not for sport, but for home protection.
Mm-hmm.
So she comes into your store. Are you advising her what kind of handgun would be suitable for that? What kind of training do you offer?
Yeah, that is the big part of the store. We like advanced shooters, obviously, but the beginner person, the person that's like, I've had enough. I want to protect myself. Sometimes it's even battered women, unfortunately. They're like, I don't want to be a victim anymore. So they're doing something to make these precautions so it don't happen again. So, yeah, she'll come in. What do you want the gun for? Home defense. We literally fit the gun to her. We'll go through different guns, what fits her hand best. Typically, it's a Glock 19. Most people like the fit, the feel, but some people don't. And buying a gun is kind of like buying shoes, right? Your friend say, "Oh, you need to go buy a Glock." Okay, they'll come in. I need to buy a Glock. All right. Why? Oh, my friend said. Well, do you buy your friend wear your friend's shoes? No. Well, then don't use their gun. Get it fitted for you. So usually it might be, say, an older lady that can't rack the slide. It's not a good gun because if you can't make it function in a efficient time, then the gun's useless to you. You're going to be attacked. So you move them onto a revolver where it's easier, simpler to manipulate. So we put them in the right gun is it's important. And only one time, one of my employees sold a lady a double barrel shotgun because she wanted it. I'm like, she comes back, this gun is just too powerful. I'm like, who sold you that gun? And it was the only gun I bought back full price, whatever 100% money back because she never should have got that gun in the first place. And we put her in a different gun, but it was like, what in the world are they thinking? So yeah, that's a big part of it. So not only do I have handgun safety classes, I have women only handgun safety classes. And I have women's range day and I have introduction to guns for women. And the reason why I break it up is because sometimes women are uncomfortable around men like, oh, this guy is going to know everything. They don't, ladies. They really don't know what they think they know. But so I offer it and then they have a good time. I've had like probably 6 or 7 students that became friends from the gun class and like, oh, I was just looking for someone to shoot with and I'm glad I met you here. And now they shoot together and they became friends because they have something in common. But yeah, a lot of women's classes, a lot of defensive shooting classes, home defense classes. Again, I mentioned the CCW classes. Um, yeah, that's what it's about. Lots of courses.
So, what is the process? How long is the process for the CCW?
It's a little bit. We have a lady at the county that works really hard, Alicia, to get them processed out, but it's taken about 6 to 8 months from the start from application till you actually get your license because it's a process. There's a lot of background checks, and then at the first of the year, they enacted this SB2 bill, which just basically they don't want you to carry the gun anyway because of the Bruin decision in 22 saying that it's not a privilege to carry a gun in the United States. It's a right, constitutional right. They didn't like it, so they tried to change things up. Yeah, so
So it's a 6 to 8 month
6 to 8
process.
months, yeah, and then there's background checks and stuff. So then once you get them approved, then you can take the course. And my course is pretty. A lot of people take it just for the knowledge. You learn about gun safety. You learn about when you can, when you can't shoot. We talk about how to batten down your home. You know where good lighting is. How to secure your windows, secure your doors. That's part of it. What do you say after you've been into a shooting? Who do you talk to? Who do you call? The 4 continuums to the use of deadly force. So there's a lot that goes into the CCW, and I have the simulator that is a shoot or don't shoot. I put them through their own little situation, and then critique them on was it a good decision what you did or a bad decision what you did. So it makes them think, gets their adrenaline up, and then they got to go out and qualify at the range. And for me, that's the most important.
Now, are they shooting live rounds at the
Live
range?
at the outdoor range, yeah. It's just a laser gun in the simulator, but out at the range, it's important that you can shoot. I remember I was having breakfast with the sheriff, and Eddie goes, "Hey Scott, I'm going to raise the uh, shooting percent to 80% instead of 70%. How's that going to affect you?" It's not. I make him shoot 85. He goes, "You do?" I said, "Yeah," because here's the problem. Some people think when they buy a gun, now they can defend their home. But nobody goes to a guitar store, buys a guitar, and walks out playing Stairway to Heaven. It just doesn't work, right? It takes time, takes training. Same thing with a gun. So when you have a gun and I'm gonna give you my signature on it to carry a gun in public, you're gonna have to earn it, right? You paid for the class, you're gonna have to earn the certificate. And so when you shoot, you get 45 shots. You can miss outside a certain area 5 shots or 4 shots. But if you hit the black, miss the target completely, that's a fail. And someone's, oh, that's only one bullet. I said, yeah, that's one baby in a stroller you hit. That's one father of 4 that you hit because you can't control the muzzle. And I said, there isn't any pressure here either. There's not someone coming at you with a knife. There's not someone enclosing that gap where you have to shoot fast. You're literally shooting a non-moving target and it's paper. And if you can't do it here, what makes you think you can do it under those conditions? And it really makes them think back. And then, some people, they'll get 3 chances to do it. They don't do it. Then they come back and practice, then qualify. It's not like it's over, right? But you got to know how to shoot. And it's huge to me that there's no misses.
So do you also offer training or certification to law enforcement?
I do. I'm post certified. I can, if an agency would hire me to shoot. As a matter of fact, on Sunday, yeah, I'm going to the police academy and I'm taking there. It's called PC 832. Their shooting course, so I can have that. But from what I understand, it's pretty simple for my skill level. But we'll see how it goes.
So would you share with our audience where you can where your place of business at? Ladies and gents, you heard it from the gun owner, store owner himself. Don't be intimidated. It's not going to be some weird experience. Women are welcome. Men are welcome. Law enforcement's welcome. You can get trained, certified, and be the first line of defense, especially in these day and times. So yeah, this is great. Scott, go ahead and share where G4 Firearms is located, your hours of operation.
Well, here's the thing. We are located in Larkville Shopping Center, but we're going to be moving. I'm going through some negotiations now. I got to meet with the town of Windsor. I'm going to kind of back away from the gun sales a little bit. I'll still sell them, but I'll be by appointment only. But I'm going to focus more on the training side of it. Because I think that's more important. You get a gun at Sportsman's. You might get a bad gun at Sportsman's because they don't really direct you, but you can come to us in the new place, which is somewhere in Windsor. I haven't really decided on the exact place, but we're going to be over where we're at now for the next month and a half till we get the change done. Yeah, and you can ask questions about guns, and we still can't sell them. We're just not going to sell them those locations. It's just going full training. I think I spend more of my time focused on that. It's better for the community than me just selling guns.
Absolutely. And so the address of the
428 Larkfield Center. It's in the Mulsbury Shopping Center. There's a Buns and Burgers. I don't know if it's still called Buns and Burgers now, but old Buns and Burgers right there. It's on that same side of the shopping center.
And the hours of operation?
11 to 6, Monday through Saturday, Sunday, 11 to 3.
So we're going to wind this down here. I have just a couple more questions. One is you never seem to sit still for too long. My grandmother used to say, idle hands are the devil's play toys. And I don't think he has a chance with you, Scott. You got your hands in a lot of different pots here. What are your future plans? What do you see down the line?
Well, I don't know if I'll ever slow down. My mom had the same. Maybe that's where I get it. She never slowed down. But future, I'd like to see. That's a great question. I want to see everybody, and maybe sounds cliche, but prosper, right? Everybody just help one another. I think if I ever ran for some type of political office, I'd have a very simple slogan: just care. Because when people just care, it helps a lot of things. Just care about the single mom. Just care about the single dad. Just care about the alcoholic in a way that you're going to help them. Don't look down on them. just have that type of heart to care. That's what I like to see in the future. More people just caring.
Understood. Last question. What's one thing people would be surprised to know about Scott Gabaldon?
I got ADD real bad. Yeah, it's hard to focus, but you know, my wife she's a saint putting up with it, but it's really hard to focus. Um, I I I used to ab dive, and I'm afraid of the ocean. I mean, I just say I'm not. I fear no man or beast, but that ocean scares me a little bit. A lot of people don't know that. But yeah, I don't know. It's I when I think about something that people don't know, I'm an open book. 90% of the people just ask me and I tell them. So, yeah. But as far as the audience, yeah, ADD, that's a big one.
That's what it is.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Scott, for coming on to the show. And we wish you nothing but blessings and prosperity in whatever endeavors you pursue. We all have a story, and we want to thank you for sharing yours.
I appreciate the invitation.